Can a single driver change the technical mentality of an entire Formula One team? What exactly did Lewis Hamilton do at the 2025 Mexican GP to make Ferrari rethink the entire design of its car? Stay, because what happened after that classification has left even the most veteran engineers in the paddock speechless. Therefore, when he arrived in Mexico, expectations were moderate. Nobody imagined that this weekend would be the turning point. What happened during qualifying was more than a fast lap. It was the cumulative result of weeks of learning, frustration, painstaking adjustments, and an obsessive mindset to find a solution. Hamilton had been quietly building, and at the Mexican GP, he finally broke that invisible barrier separating him from elite performance. That third place in the classification, after more than a year outside the top three, was not a stroke of luck. It was a tangible manifestation that Hamilton had cracked the SF25 code. A clear message for everyone. It is not finished yet, and Ferrari with it could have much more to offer than previously believed. The Mexican circuit is one of the most treacherous for Formula One engineers. The altitude, greater than 2,200 meters, drastically reduces the density of the air. This means that the engines lose power, the brakes heat up more quickly, and the downforce so vital to keeping the car glued to the asphalt is significantly reduced. Every corner requires surgical precision, because any error in weight transfer or miscalculation in ground load results in understeer or loss of traction. In these conditions, Hamilton not only maintained stability, but managed to make the car look more docile and progressive than ever. That was the first sign that he had discovered something that others had not perceived. When engineers analyzed the power distribution and chassis behavior in each sector, they found something unusual. Hamilton's SF25 displayed vertical load handling well below normal peaks, nearly 20% less structural stress without sacrificing speed. In simple terms, the car was not being slammed into the ground like Leclerc's or the simulator's reference data. This implied much finer throttle management, a sensitivity in the power transition that minimized negative aerodynamic impacts. Hamilton had unconsciously modified his driving style to allow the car to flex naturally within its tolerance range, rather than forcing it into a stiffness imposed by the previous settings. That little difference changed everything. Ferrari had been trying for months to solve the SF25's instability problems by adjusting the suspension and stiffening the structural components, but that rigidity had caused the car to become nervous, especially in slow sectors. Hamilton, upon detecting the pattern of behavior, decided to experiment. He reduced the aggressiveness at corner entry, softened the steering wheel corrections, and began to flow with the car, seeking a more organic relationship between his driving and the dynamic balance of the car. The result was a clean, stable, and fast lap, something that not even Leclerc himself could replicate. The aerodynamic engineers soon met that same night. According to leaked internal reports, Ferrari modified its setup protocol for race day. They adjusted the active suspension maps within the permitted range, widened the loading window on the rear axle, and revised downforce targets based on data generated by Hamilton's car. It was a radical correction because it meant accepting that the SF25 digital simulation was based on erroneous assumptions. What Hamilton had done on the track exceeded the predictions of Ferrari's own modeling system. This wasn't just a piloting improvement, it was a technical lesson. Hamilton, without touching a single part of the car, had shown that the key was in how the transfer of weight and energy was managed, not in the hardware. His experience, his instinct, and above all his ability to interpret what he felt through the steering wheel, achieved what weeks of wind tunnel data had not achieved. Even Frédéric Vasseur himself acknowledged, off-camera, that Hamilton's approach had exposed a fundamental weakness in his development process. Telemetry analysts also noticed an even more impressive detail. In low-speed corners, where the SF25 traditionally tended to understeer, Hamilton maintained a minimum speed higher than Leclerc's by an average of 4 km per hour. But beyond the figure, the important thing was how it did it. Not by forcing entry, but by balancing traction through progressive pressure on the accelerator pedal, synchronized with micro-adjustments in the angle of the steering wheel. It was a technique refined to an almost imperceptible level, an exercise in precision at the human limit. This subtle difference in the power delivery mode prevented losses of grip at the rear and stabilized the aerodynamic flow under the car's floor. In the first sector, Hamilton showed absolute confidence from the moment he crossed the start line. This section, dominated by a long straight followed by hard braking and a fast chicane, is usually one of the most complicated sections in terms of aerodynamic stability, due to the transition between high speed and a technical area. Here, Hamilton's SF25 was not only stable, but maintained a surprising level of grip, especially in turns 3 and 4. Telemetry showed that his throttle control and the way he dispensed power just before reaching the limit of grip was millimetric, allowing him to reduce lateral slip and gain time without straining the car. The second sector, nicknamed the Snake for its sequence of linked curves, has historically been the place where drivers make the difference. This is where both the technical precision of the driver and the efficiency of the chassis come into play. Hamilton dominated this area with a fluid and progressive line. His entry into each corner was smooth but determined, without unnecessary corrections. The car seemed to slide naturally through each change of direction. This behavior not only reflects the quality of the setup, but also the management of the dynamic balance during mass transfer. While many drivers, including Leclerc, showed small losses of traction on exits or blockages on entry, Hamilton maintained a constant pace without disturbing the overall balance of the car. It was a surgical execution. But the moment of greatest clarity came in the third sector, the most technical and demanding of the circuit. This part includes the stadium, an area where errors are magnified due to the complexity of the curves and the presence of the public so close. In this section, Hamilton exhibited absolute dominance. Every braking, every turning point, every partial acceleration was perfectly timed. The sensors showed that his traction at the exit of turns 12 and 13 was the best of the entire grid that day. His technique was to keep the car as neutral as possible, avoiding the typical front axle thrust that had been a recurring problem on the SF25. In addition to pure performance, there is an aspect that few noticed but that was crucial for Ferrari: the optimization of tires in each sector. Hamilton was the only driver in the top 5 who showed no signs of overheating on the soft compounds during the fastest lap. This data was not only surprising due to the high temperatures recorded on the Mexican asphalt, but also because it shows that his driving style had been adjusted not only to the car, but also to the thermal behavior of the tires. The average lateral load per corner was lower than its rivals, suggesting it was managing energy peaks more intelligently, maximizing grip without excessively degrading the rubber. And now comes the strategic part. Classifying in third position in Mexico, more than a statistic, is a tactical weapon. Unlike other circuits, where pole position guarantees a clean line, at Hermanos Rodríguez, P3 starts on the left side, which is the cleanest on the grid. On a track where off-road dust and dirt are a real problem, having that extra traction off the line can make the difference between defending position or immediately attacking. But that's not all. Mexico has the longest stretch from the starting line to the first stop of the entire season, 830 meters. It is a straight that becomes a launching pad for the pilot who knows how to take advantage of the slipstream. And Hamilton knows this better than anyone. He himself recalled it in later interviews: P3 is perfect here. We have already seen how Verstappen took advantage of it years ago. I have nothing to lose. Norris, yes. This statement summarizes the mentality with which he entered the race. Aggressive, with the determination to seek the lead in the first meters. For a driver like Hamilton, who has built his career on relentless starts, this position is a strategic blessing. But beyond the data, the sectors, or the simulations, the most powerful thing about this rebirth was the symbolic message it transmitted. A message for both the grill and the fans. Hamilton is still here. He remains a force capable of altering the balance of power in Formula One, not only through his hands but through his head. Because while many saw in him a champion of the past clinging to the memory of his glory, he was silently writing the prologue of a new story. And Ferrari, finally, seems to have found in him more than a driver, a leader, a performance architect, a technical and emotional beacon. After the Mexican Grand Prix, the conversation about Ferrari changed. We no longer talk only about promises. We talk about real possibilities. And that difference in this sport is everything. Because when a team like Ferrari starts to believe again, there is no ceiling to what it can achieve. And Hamilton, with his third position and his silent revolution, has been the catalyst for that new beginning. The 2025 Mexican Grand Prix will not only be recorded as a great qualifying session. What was experienced that weekend was the rebirth of one of the most legendary figures in motorsports, in the most demanding and emotional environment of all. But it was also the silent turning point for a team that had been searching for its identity for years without success. In less than 90 minutes of timed activity, Lewis Hamilton not only changed his personal narrative, he also activated a new era within Ferrari. Do you think Hamilton can turn this technical spark into a victory in the upcoming races? Are you currently seeing a real resurrection of Ferrari or just a circumstantial mirage? Can this Ferrari and Hamilton pairing become the most unexpected story of the 2025 season? Leave it in the comments what you think about all this.